In today's modern parenting, we're talking long-term, really long-term, building a lasting family legacy.
Let's be honest, a legacy is not something that most people think about a lot, but as you consider which goals to pursue this year in 2024, you might want to think about how you're going to be remembered, especially since, as the Washington Post puts it, building a legacy which benefits others and will survive beyond your lifetime encourages you to think deeper and longer term. Joining us now to do that is life coach and author Elizabeth Pearson. Elizabeth, thank you for being here. This is one of those that we were saying is not something you think about very often, and maybe it's kind of scary, but when you talk about building a legacy for your family, how do you set those long-term goals?
Yeah, well, you don't have to be a rock star or have like huge generational wealth to have a legacy. We're all unknowingly building a legacy as we live every day, right? You guys are building a legacy of journalistic excellence, humanitarian, philanthropy, all of this stuff. And it might not you may not really realize, like, I'm building this legacy on purpose, but you are. So I think it's great to have an aligned philosophy with your family to say, what is something that we want to work towards together as a collective?
So how does building a legacy benefit both parents and kids? How should they be thinking about it?
Well, I think it's great because it can help you bring to surface some of your passions. Maybe great-grandma was a writer or somebody was a musician or something. And so if you know that you have that lineage and that's part of your family legacy, maybe your kids might be inspired to try it, or maybe you might be inspired to try it. Or some of our ancestors that probably overcame some pretty hard things. It can help you overcome obstacles by knowing that somebody else in your family or in your community had that legacy of overcoming hardship.
My dad is an archaeologist, so he has prepared a book. He made a book for each of us, like this thick, of our family history, and it's really incredible. But what do you consider, like, what are some smaller ways to get started on building that legacy?
Well, you can do that, right? Like, that's such a great idea, is to write a book. I think people think they might not have impactful stories, but we all do. So there's all sorts of platforms where you can collect that. But I also think just getting aligned, maybe as like a weekly goal setting for a family, like, hey, do we want to be kind to 5 strangers this week and smile or say hi to somebody? Or do we want to help a friend at school, help a colleague that maybe we see struggling? So I think that if you set these smaller short-term goals, it can actually build into a longer lasting legacy.
Well, let's talk about that sort of long-term goal setting, because I think a lot of, especially young people, kids, can think in the short term or maybe be individualistic and say, oh, I'm my own person, I'm not connected to my roots. But how can a young person, a kid, have a long-term mindset with this kind of thing?
I think as parents and as the support network for that child, if we model that for them, the importance of having long-term goals, because the thing is, when you don't have that instant gratification and you're really working for something, you're going to have greater fulfillment. It's going to be something that, you know, you can say, I really worked hard for that, and it just feels a little bit different when you finally achieve it. But you need to consider some things, right? The time that it's going to take to do it, stay centered to that why. Why am I really focused on doing that? And then start small and get a support network around you so you can stay focused towards that goal.
And how do you keep motivated? You know, life is so busy. How do you keep motivated toward actually doing it?
I think if you can anchor yourself to that long-term impact that you're gonna have, that can really be a huge motivator. And once you start doing things, you'll build some momentums and it will become more so effortless.
And, you know, of course, modern parenting, we've focused on families, kids, parents, but of course you don't need kids to have a lasting legacy, right? So how can those folks think about this too?
Yeah, I think you should. There's professional legacies you can leave. You can also leave a legacy in your community. So I think philanthropic endeavors are huge. But in the professional sense, again, like mentor somebody or who's coming up or advocate for positive change. I think if you're contributing to the betterment of society overall, that's a knockout legacy to leave behind.
Elizabeth Pearson, always great to have you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.